I need you to listen to me very carefully right now. Because what I'm about to tell you shouldn't be possible. I died 3 years ago. Not in the way you're thinking. My heart didn't stop, my lungs didn't fail. But I stood in front of my father with a Bible in my hands, and I watched his face twist into something inhuman. Something demonic. He pulled the knife from his belt, the same knife he used to slaughter goats during Eid, and he placed the blade against my throat. Cold. Sharp. So sharp I felt my skin split before he even pressed down. You will renounce this Jesus, he whispered, his breath hot against my face, smelling like cardamom and rage. Or I will send you to him tonight. The metal was so cold it burned. I could hear my mother screaming somewhere behind me. I could hear the call to prayer echoing from the mosque down the street, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and I remember thinking, God, if you're real, this is a really terrible time to be silent. But let me take you back. Because you need to understand how a boy like me, a boy who had everything, ended up with a knife at his throat and a forbidden book in his hands. My name means servant of the merciful in Arabic. Ironic, isn't it? Because mercy was the one thing I never received. I grew up in a house that looked like a palace. Marble floors, white, polished, imported from Italy, so cold they numbed your feet even in the scorching summer heat. Crystal chandeliers that cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. My father owned textile factories across 3 cities. We had drivers, maids, cooks, security guards who stood at our gates with rifles. I wore designer clothes from Dubai. I had the newest phone, the fastest laptop, anything I wanted. My friends envied me. Teachers praised me. Imams at the mosque would pat my head and say, MashaAllah, this boy will be a great leader for Islam one day. But here's what they couldn't see, I was suffocating. Every morning at 5 a.m., my father would bang on my door for far prayer. Not a gentle knock. A pounding. Like the door itself had offended him. Get up. Allah is watching. And I would stumble out of bed, my body exhausted, my soul even more tired, and I would wash my face with cold water and kneel beside him on the prayer mat. 5 times a day. Every single day. Forehead to the ground. Reciting words in Arabic that I had memorized but never understood. Words that felt like chains around my chest. Have you ever prayed to someone you're terrified of? Have you ever begged for love from someone you're not sure even likes you? That was me. That was my relationship with Allah. Obedience through fear. Devotion through terror. My father would say, the Christians are dogs. They worship a dead man on a cross. They are kafir, disbelievers, and they will burn in Jahannam forever. He said it so casually, the way you might comment on the weather. And I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my father. He was a respected man in our community. He had memorized the entire Quran. So I hated Christians. I had never met one, not really, but I hated them. Because I was taught to. I remember when I was 12, we drove past a small church on the edge of the city. It was crumbling, dirty, with a crooked cross on top. My father spit out the window. Actually spit. That is the house of Shaitan, he said. Never go near it. But I looked at it. I stared at it as we drove past. And I felt something. Curiosity? Dread? I don't know. It was like that building was calling me, even then. I was 17 when the cracks started to show. Not in my life, no, everything still looked perfect on the outside. But inside, I was crumbling. I would lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, feeling this crushing weight on my chest. I would ask myself questions I wasn't allowed to ask. Why does Allah feel so far away? Why do I feel more afraid than loved? Why does this faith feel like a prison? And then one night, one stupid, reckless, life-changing night, I did something unforgivable. I Googled it. I typed the words into my phone, my hands shaking, my door locked, my heart pounding so loud I thought my father would hear it through the walls. I searched, why do Christians believe in Jesus? And that search, that one moment of curiosity, set my entire world on fire. The internet is a dangerous place when you're searching for truth in a home built on lies. I stayed up until 3 a.m. that night, the blue light from my phone burning my eyes, my thumb scrolling and scrolling through websites I knew could get me killed. I read testimonies of former Muslims. I watched videos muted, with headphones, my door locked, a chair wedged under the handle. I read about Jesus. Not the Isa from the Quran, the watered-down prophet who never claimed divinity, but the real Jesus. The one who said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Those words hit me like a punch to the stomach. Not "I will show you the way." Not "I know a way." I am the way. I had never heard anyone speak like that. Not the imams. Not the scholars. Not even Allah in the Quran. It was absolute. It was authoritative. It was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. But I didn't tell anyone. Are you insane? In my world, curiosity about Christianity wasn't rebellion, it was treason. It was betrayal of the worst kind. Apostasy. And apostasy carried one sentence: death. So I buried it. I shoved those questions deep down into the darkest corner of my mind, and I went back to my perfect life. Prayed 5 times a day. Fasted during Ramadan. Smiled at my father's friends. Played the part. But my father wasn't stupid. Let me tell you about my father. Because you need to understand the kind of man he was. His name was Ahmad. In public, he was respected, charismatic even. He donated to the mosque. He fed the poor during Ramadan. He quoted the Quran at business meetings and everyone nodded like he was some kind of spiritual giant. People kissed his hand. They called him Haji because he had been to Mecca 3 times. But at home, he was a tyrant. His eyes were black. Not brown, black. Like 2 pieces of coal pressed into his skull. When he looked at you, he didn't see a person. He saw property. He saw an extension of his reputation, his honor, his legacy. And if you threaten that legacy, God help you. I watched him beat my mother once. I was 9 years old. She had overcooked the rice, something small, something stupid, and he grabbed her by the hair and slammed her face into the kitchen counter. I heard her nose break. I heard her scream. And when I tried to run to her, he pointed at me with 1 finger, and that finger might as well have been a loaded gun. Go to your room, he said. Calm. Cold. This is between a man and his wife. I obeyed. Because that's what you did. You obeyed. And my mother? The next day, she wore makeup to cover the bruises and told the neighbors she had slipped in the bathroom. That's how it worked. You protected the image. You hid the rot. Have you ever lived with someone you were terrified of? Someone who controlled every breath you took, every word you spoke? Then you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, Thank God. Because it's a special kind of hell. It was a Friday afternoon Jummah prayer day when everything fell apart. I came home from the mosque with my father. The Imam had given a sermon about the dangers of Western influence, about how Muslims needed to protect their children from the poison of Christian missionaries and secular ideas. My father had nodded along, stroking his beard, murmuring Alhamdulillah under his breath. We walked into the house. My mother was cooking in the kitchen. I could smell lamb biryani, saffron, fried onions. My little sister was doing homework in the living room. Everything seemed normal. And then my father stopped. He stopped in the doorway to my bedroom. And he stared. I felt my blood turn to ice. My laptop. I had left my laptop open. I had been so tired from the early morning prayer, so careless, so stupid, and I had left it open on my desk. The screen was dark, in sleep mode, but it was open. And my father, the man who controlled everything, the man who trusted nothing, walked over to it. Baba, I started. Be quiet, he said. He touched the keyboard. The screen lit up. And there it was. A YouTube video I had watched the night before. Paused. Frozen. The title in bold letters across the screen. Muslim Imam encounters Jesus and leaves Islam. The room went silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence. The kind of silence that comes before an explosion. Before an earthquake. The kind that makes your ears ring. My father's hand began to shake. Just slightly. Just enough for me to notice. What, he said slowly, his voice barely above a whisper, is this? Baba, I can explain. What is this? He roared at this time. His hand slammed down on the desk so hard the lamp fell over. My mother came running. My sister screamed. I couldn't speak. My throat had closed. My tongue felt like sand. He grabbed my laptop and hurled it across the room. It shattered against the wall, glass and plastic exploding like shrapnel. My mother was crying now, pulling at his arm, begging him to calm down. He shoved her away. Then he turned to me. And I saw it. I saw the exact moment his face changed. The exact moment my father looked at me and stopped seeing his son. He saw an enemy. A traitor. A disease that needed to be cut out. You have been watching Christian lies, he said. Not a question. A statement. An accusation. A verdict. No, Baba, I was just curious. Curious? He laughed. It was the worst sound I've ever heard. High-pitched. Manic. You were curious about the people who want to destroy Islam? You were curious about the kafir? I'm not leaving Islam. I shouted. I don't know why I shouted. Maybe because I was terrified. Maybe because I was lying. I was just trying to understand them so I could debate them, so I could. The slap came so fast I didn't see it. I just felt the explosion of pain across my face, the ringing in my ear, the taste of blood in my mouth. You will never touch another device in this house, my father said. His voice was calm again. Deadly calm. You will go to the mosque every single day. You will memorize Surah Al-Baqarah in 1 month. And if I ever catch you looking at Christian filth again. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. He left the room. My mother scrambled after him, still crying, still begging. And I stood there, my cheek throbbing, my laptop in pieces on the floor, and I realized something. I wasn't his son anymore. I was his problem. That night, I heard them arguing. My parents. Through the walls of my bedroom, I could hear every word. He is just a boy, my mother sobbed. He is confused, he didn't mean. He is poison, my father said. If the community finds out, we are finished. Finished. Do you understand? Our name, our business, our honor, everything will be destroyed because of him. So what do you want to do? My mother whispered. There was a long pause. I will fix this, my father said. I will send him to Pakistan. To the madrasa. They will beat this Western sickness out of him. My blood ran cold. A madrasa. An Islamic boarding school in Pakistan. I had heard the stories. Boys sent there came back different. Broken. Hollow. Some didn't come back at all. And that's when I knew my father didn't love me. He never had. I was just another possession. Another piece of his empire. And when a possession became defective, you threw it away. They say that drowning doesn't look like drowning. That people don't thrash and scream the way they do in movies. They just sink. Quietly. Desperately. While everyone around them goes on with their day, completely unaware. That's what the next 3 weeks felt like. I was drowning. And nobody could see it. My father didn't speak to me after that night. Not one word. He would walk past me in the hallway like I was a ghost. Like I had already ceased to exist. My mother would leave food outside my bedroom door, rice, lentils, bread, but she wouldn't look at me either. My little sister, Aisha, tried once. She knocked on my door and whispered, "Are you okay?" I heard my father's voice boom from downstairs, "Aisha, get away from that door. Now!" She ran. And I never heard her voice again. I was isolated. Quarantined. Like I carried some contagious disease that could infect the whole family. And maybe, in their eyes, I did. Maybe doubt was the most dangerous plague of all. My father confiscated everything. My phone. My laptop. Even my books, anything that wasn't the Quran or Hadith collections. He installed a lock on the outside of my bedroom door. At night, I would hear the click of the bolt sliding into place, and I would lie there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, feeling the walls close in. Have you ever been locked inside your own home? Have you ever felt like a prisoner in a place that's supposed to keep you safe? I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Every morning, my father would unlock the door at 4:45 a.m. He wouldn't say a word. He would just stand there, arms crossed, waiting. And I would get up, wash for prayer, and follow him downstairs to the prayer room. We would pray far together. Me, my father, and the suffocating silence between us. I would prostrate on that prayer mat, forehead pressed to the ground, hands flat, knees bent, and I would recite the words I had memorized since childhood. Subhana Rabbil Allah. Subhana Rabbil Allah. Subhana Rabbil Allah. Glory be to my Lord, the Most High. But inside, I was screaming. Where are you? Why won't you answer me? Why does this feel so empty? After prayer, my father would leave for work without a word. And I would be locked back in my room. Alone. For hours and hours and hours. Do you know what isolation does to your mind? It's not just loneliness. It's worse than that. It's like your thoughts start eating themselves. You replay every mistake, every failure, every moment of shame, over and over and over until you can't tell what's real anymore. I started talking to myself, just to hear a human voice, just to remember that I still existed. But the worst part? The worst part was the praying. Because I didn't stop. Even after everything, I kept praying to Allah. 5 times a day. Every single day. I performed wudu, the ritual washing, so carefully, making sure the water touched every required part of my body 3 times. I faced Mecca. I recited the Quran. I begged. Oh God, how I begged. Please, Allah. Please hear me. Please show me the truth. Please help me understand. Please don't let them send me away. Please, please, please. But there was nothing. No peace. No answer. No warmth. Just the cold, hard floor beneath my forehead and the deafening silence of a God who felt a million miles away. I tried everything. I prayed longer. I cried during my prayers, real, desperate tears. I read the Quran for hours, running my fingers over the Arabic script, searching for something, anything that would make me feel close to Him. I fasted. Even though it wasn't Ramadan, I fasted for 3 days straight, drinking only water at night, thinking maybe if I suffered enough, if I proved my devotion enough, He would respond. Nothing. I remember one night, it must have been 2 a.m., I was so desperate, so completely broken, that I got out of bed and prostrated on the floor. And I stayed there. For an hour. Maybe more. My forehead aching. My knees numb. My back screaming in pain. Allah, I whispered into the darkness. If you're real, if you're really there, please just give me a sign. Anything. I don't need a miracle. I don't need a burning bush. Just, let me feel you. Please. I'm so alone. I'm so scared. I don't know what's true anymore. Just, please. Silence. Cold, indifferent, crushing silence. And that's when something inside me broke. Have you ever prayed to someone and realized they might not be listening? Have you ever poured your heart out to the ceiling and understood that maybe, just maybe, nobody's home? It's the loneliest feeling in the world. My father came to my room on a Thursday evening. 3 weeks after he found the video. He unlocked the door and stepped inside, holding a folder in his hands. Official-looking papers. A plane ticket. You leave in 4 days, he said. No emotion. Like he was discussing a business transaction. I have enrolled you in Darul Uloom in Karachi. You will study there for 2 years. When you return, this foolishness will be gone. My mother stood behind him in the hallway. She was crying. Silently. Her hand over her mouth. Baba, please, I started. There is nothing to discuss, he said. You brought this on yourself. You disrespected this family. You disrespected Islam. Now you will learn what it means to be a true Muslim. He dropped the folder on my bed and left. The lock clicked behind him. I opened the folder with shaking hands. Plane ticket. Visa. Enrollment papers for the madrasa. And at the bottom, a printed schedule. 5 a.m., Far prayer 5:30 a.m., Quran memorization 7 a.m., breakfast 8 a.m., Arabic grammar 10 a.m., Hadith study 12 p.m., Dur prayer 1 p.m., lunch 2 p.m., Islamic jurisprudence 4 p.m., ASR prayer 5 p.m., Quran recitation 7 p.m., Maghrib prayer 8 p.m., dinner 9 p.m., Isha prayer 10 p.m., lights out. Every single hour. Planned. Controlled. Monitored. And at the top of the page, written in red pen, discipline through submission. Purity through obedience. I felt vomit rise in my throat. This wasn't education. This was reprogramming. This was erasure. They were going to take whatever was left of me and destroy it. That night, I did something I swore I would never do. I knelt beside my bed, not facing Mecca this time, just facing the darkness, and I prayed to the God I didn't know. Jesus, I whispered. And saying that name out loud, in that house, felt like striking a match in a room full of gasoline. Dangerous. Forbidden. Explosive. Jesus, if you're real, if you're really who those videos said you were, I need you. Because I've prayed to Allah my whole life and He doesn't hear me. I've followed every rule, every ritual, every command, and I feel nothing. Just emptiness. Just fear. My voice broke. Tears streamed down my face. I don't even know if you're listening. I don't know if this is stupid or crazy or if I'm going to hell for even saying your name. But I have nothing left. They're going to send me away. They're going to break me. And I don't know if I'm strong enough to survive it. I took a shaky breath. So if you're there, if you can hear me, please, show me. I'm not asking for proof. I'm not asking for a miracle. I just need to know that someone hears me. That I'm not alone. That I'm not crazy for thinking there's something more than this. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. 20. And then, nothing. I laughed. A bitter, broken sound. Of course there was nothing. Why would Jesus listen to me? Why would the God of my enemies care about a Muslim boy locked in his bedroom, waiting to be shipped off to a prison disguised as a school? I climbed into bed, pulled the thin blanket over my body, closed my eyes, and I gave up. If any God was real, He clearly didn't care about me. I had 4 days left. 4 days until they erased me. 4 days until the boy I was ceased to exist. But here's the thing about God, the real God, not the distant, angry deity I had been taught to fear. He doesn't wait for permission. He doesn't need an invitation. And He was already preparing to answer my prayer in a way I could never have imagined. I just didn't know it yet. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? 4 days. That's all I had left. 4 days before they put me on a plane to a place where questioning was beaten out of you, where doubt was met with fists and sticks and isolation cells. 4 days before I became a ghost. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, watching the shadows shift as car headlights passed on the street below. My mind was racing, 1,000 thoughts crashing into each other like waves in a storm. What if I ran away? Where would I go? I have no money, no documents, no friends who would risk their families to help me. What if I just did what they wanted? Went to the madrasa, played along, pretended, came back in 2 years a good Muslim boy and lived the rest of my life as a lie. What if No. I couldn't think that. But the thought came anyway, dark and seductive and terrifying. What if I just ended it? What if death was easier than this? I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to force the thought away. But it lingered. It coiled around my mind like smoke, and I hated myself for even considering it. God, I whispered into the darkness. Not Allah. Not Jesus. Just God. Whoever was out there. Whoever was listening. If you exist, I need help. Please. The next morning, Friday, my father left early for Jummah prayer at the Grand Mosque across the city. He always went there on Fridays. It was where the important men gathered, where business deals were made after the sermon, where reputations were built. My mother went with him. She had started accompanying him everywhere, probably because he didn't trust her alone with me. Afraid she might show me mercy. Afraid she might be weak. my little sister went to her Quran class. And for the first time in 3 weeks, I was alone in the house. Unlocked. My father had been careless. Or maybe he thought I was already broken enough that I wouldn't dare disobey. Either way, when I tested my bedroom door that morning, it opened. My heart nearly exploded out of my chest. I stood in the doorway, breathing hard, half expecting my father to appear out of nowhere and drag me back inside. But the house was silent. Empty. The clock on the wall ticked. Sunlight streamed through the windows. I was alone. And I had maybe 2 hours before they returned. I don't know what I was looking for. I just knew I needed to do something. Find something. Anything that would give me answers, give me hope, give me a reason not to give up. I walked through the house like a stranger. It felt wrong being out of my room. Like I was trespassing in my own home. I went to the kitchen first. Made myself tea black chai with cardamom, the way my mother made it. My hands were shaking so badly I spilled half of it. When was the last time I had eaten a real meal? I couldn't remember. I grabbed a piece of naan from the counter, stuffed it in my mouth. It tasted like sand. Then I heard it. A voice. Faint. Coming from upstairs. From my father's study. I froze. No. Everyone left. I'm alone. I saw them leave. But the voice continued. Low. Rhythmic. I crept toward the stairs, my heart hammering, and that's when I realized it wasn't a person. It was a radio. My father's old radio in his study. He must have left it on. And it was speaking English. I climbed the stairs slowly, every creak of the wood making me flinch. My father's study was forbidden territory. I had never been inside without him. Even my mother rarely entered. It was his sanctuary. His domain. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with Islamic texts, Quran commentaries, hadith collections, books on Sharia law. His massive desk made of dark mahogany. A leather chair that creaked when he sat in it. And on the shelf behind his desk, the radio. Old. Dusty. Crackling with static. But the voice coming through was clear. And Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." I stopped breathing. It was a Christian broadcast. Somehow, impossibly, my father's radio, set to skin channels, had landed on a Christian station. The voice continued, gentle, warm, nothing like the harsh, commanding voices of the imams I had grown up hearing. Maybe you're listening today and you feel like you're drowning. Like you're alone. Like God has forgotten you. But I want you to know something, He hasn't. He sees you. He hears you. And He loves you more than you could ever imagine. Tears blurred my vision. How? How could this voice know? How could these words? I stood there, frozen, listening. The man on the radio was praying now. Not reciting. Not performing. Just talking to God like He was in the room. Like He was a friend. Father, if someone is listening right now who needs you, I pray you would reveal yourself to them. Show them you're real. Show them they're not alone. In Jesus' name. The broadcast crackled and cut to static. I lunged forward, frantically twisting the dial, trying to find the station again. But it was gone. Lost in the sea of Arabic news channels and Quran recitations. No, 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 please, I whispered, my fingers trembling on the dial. That's when I saw it. Behind the radio. Tucked between 2 thick volumes of tafsir commentary. A spine. Leather. Worn. and on it, in faded gold letters, Holy Bible. My entire body went cold. A Bible. In my father's study. The man who spit at churches, who called Christians dogs, who beat his son for watching a YouTube video, had a Bible in his study. I pulled it out with shaking hands. It was old. The leather was cracked, the pages yellowed and thin. And when I opened it, I saw handwriting in the margins. Notes. In my father's handwriting. My father had been reading this. My father, the man who quoted the Quran at every opportunity, who prayed 5 times a day without fail, who sent money to jihadist groups in Syria, had been studying the Bible. Why? When? How long? My mind was reeling. Nothing made sense. Was this some kind of test? A trap? Had he planted it here to see if I would take the bait? But no. The dust on the shelf. The way it was hidden. The notes in the margins, questions, underlines, cross-references to Quranic verses. This was real. This was his secret. And now it was mine. I should have put it back. I should have run back to my room, locked myself in, and pretended I never saw it. But I didn't. I sat down in my father's leather chair, the one I was never allowed to touch, and I opened the Bible to a random page. The Gospel of John, chapter 14. And I started reading. Let not your heart be troubled, ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. The words washed over me like water. Like cool water on burned skin. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father, but by me. There it was again. That claim. The one that had hooked me weeks ago. Not a way. Not a truth. The way. The truth. The life. I kept reading. Flipping pages. Devouring words like a starving man at a feast. Matthew 11 verse 28, Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. The same verse from the radio. It was like the words were following me. Like they were meant for me. Psalm 34 verse 18, The Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit. Broken heart. That was me. Shattered. Crushed. Ground into dust. And then I found it. The verse that stopped me cold. That made me realize I wasn't reading a book, I was being read. John 16 verse 33, These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. Peace. When was the last time I felt peace? When was the last time I wasn't afraid, wasn't performing, wasn't trying to earn love I would never receive? Never. The answer was never. But this Jesus, this man I had been taught to reject, to hate, to fear, was offering it. Not as a reward for perfect obedience. Not as a prize at the end of a lifetime of ritual. As a gift. Come unto me, and I will give you rest. I don't know how long I sat there. Time disappeared. The words on the page blurred through my tears, but I couldn't stop reading. I read about Jesus healing the sick. Not because they earned it. Just because he loved them. I read about him touching lepers, people who were considered unclean, untouchable, cursed by God. And he touched them anyway. I read about him forgiving a woman caught in adultery. In my world, she would have been stoned. Executed. Shamed. But Jesus looked at her accusers and said, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone. And they all walked away. Every single one. Because nobody was clean enough. Nobody was perfect enough. Nobody could cast that stone. And then Jesus looked at the woman and said something that shattered me. Neither do I condemn thee, go, and sin no more. I sobbed. Right there in my father's chair, hunched over this forbidden book, I sobbed like a child. Because I had spent my entire life trying to be clean enough for a God who only saw my filth, who only counted my sins, who waited for me to fail so he could punish me. But this Jesus, he saw the filth and said, I don't condemn you. How? How was that possible? How could a holy God look at broken, sinful, dirty people and not condemn them? And then I read it. John 3 verses 16 to 17. The most famous verse in the Bible. The one even I had heard referenced in mockery. For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. God loved the world. Not just the righteous. Not just the perfect. Not just the ones who memorized scripture and prayed 5 times a day and followed every rule. The world. And that included me. The boy locked in his room. The boy being sent away to be broken and rebuilt. The boy who doubted, who questioned, who failed every single day to be good enough. Me. I heard the car pull into the driveway. Panic exploded in my chest. I looked at the clock. How was it already noon? They were back. My father was home. I shoved the Bible back into its hiding place, my hands clumsy with fear. Did I put it back right? Would he notice? Would he see the tears on his desk, the way the chair was moved? I ran. Down the stairs. Back to my room. I closed the door just as I heard the front door open. My father's voice, check on him. Footsteps. Coming up the stairs. Coming toward my room. I dove onto my bed, grabbed a Quran from my nightstand, opened it randomly, and pretended to read. The door opened. My father stood there, staring at me with those black, dead eyes. You've been out of your room, he said. My blood turned to ice. No, Baba, I can smell the chai. You made tea. I swallowed hard. I was thirsty. I'm sorry. He stared at me for a long, terrible moment. Then he closed the door. Locked it. But I heard him pause on the other side. And I heard him whisper, just loud enough for me to hear. 3 more days. I lay on my bed, my heart still racing, the words from the Bible still burning in my mind. And for the first time in weeks, maybe for the first time in my life, I felt something other than fear. I felt hope. Dangerous, terrifying, life-changing hope. Because I had read the truth. And now I knew. Jesus was real. And I was going to meet him. That night, I couldn't eat. My mother had left dinner outside my door, chicken karahi, naan, rice, but the smell made my stomach turn. I pushed the plate away, untouched. How could I eat when my entire world was spinning? When everything I had been taught, everything I had believed, everything I had built my life on was crumbling like sand? I paced my room. Back and forth. Back and forth. 8 steps to the wall. Turn. 8 steps back. The Bible verses ran through my head on repeat, like a song I couldn't stop humming. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. For God so loved the world. I am the way, the truth, and the life. 3 more days. That's all I had. 3 days before the plane. 3 days before Pakistan. 3 days before they took whatever spark was left inside me and snuffed it out forever. And I realized something that made my knees weak. I couldn't go. Not now. Not after reading those words. Not after feeling something I had never felt before, hope. Real, genuine, soul-deep hope. But what choice did I have? I was 17. I had no money. No passport, my father kept it locked in his safe. No friends who would risk their necks for me. No way out. I was trapped. At midnight, when the house had gone silent, when I could hear my father's snoring through the walls, I did something that would have gotten me killed if anyone had seen. I knelt beside my bed, not facing Mecca this time, but facing the window, where I could see the stars scattered across the black sky like diamonds, and I prayed. But not to Allah. Jesus, I whispered, my voice barely audible even to myself. I don't know how to do this. I don't know the right words. I've never prayed to you before. I don't even know if I'm allowed to. But I read your words today, and they felt true. More true than anything I've ever heard. My throat tightened. Tears slipped down my cheeks. I'm so tired. I'm so tired of being afraid. I'm tired of trying to earn love I'll never deserve. I'm tired of praying to a God who doesn't answer. I'm tired of feeling like I'm drowning. I took a shaky breath. If you're real, and I think you are, I hope you are, then I need you to show me. I need to know this isn't just in my head. I need to know I'm not crazy. Because in 3 days, they're going to take me away, and I don't think I'll survive it. I don't think I'll come back. I pressed my forehead to the floor, just like I had done in Islamic prayer my entire life, but this time it felt different. This time I wasn't performing. I wasn't reciting memorized words. I was just broken. Desperate. Real. Please, I whispered. If you can hear me, help me. Save me. I don't care what it costs. I don't care what I have to lose. I need you to be real. Silence. The same silence I had heard 1,000 times before when I prayed to Allah. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. 20. Nothing. I climbed into bed, pulled the blanket over my head, and closed my eyes. And I felt the last thread of hope begin to fray. I don't know when I fell asleep, but I remember the moment everything changed. 1 second, I was lying in my bed, in my dark room, with the weight of despair crushing my chest. The next second, I was somewhere else. I was standing. Not in my room. Not in my house. I was standing in a field. Endless. Golden. Wheat or barley or something that glowed in the light of a sun I couldn't see. The sky above me was impossibly blue, not the polluted gray-brown sky of my city, but a blue so pure, so vibrant, it almost hurt to look at. And it was silent. Not the oppressive silence of isolation, but a peaceful silence. The kind of silence that feels full instead of empty. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling. I touched my face, it was wet. Had I been crying? I couldn't remember. Where am I? I whispered. And then I heard it. A voice. Behind me. Turn around. It wasn't loud. It didn't echo. But it filled every inch of space, every corner of my mind, every fiber of my being. It was the kind of voice you don't just hear with your ears, you feel it. In your chest. In your bones. In your soul. I turned around. And I saw him. Listen to me very carefully. Because I need you to understand something. I have spent the last 3 years trying to describe this moment. I have written it down 100 times. I have told this story to dozens of people. And every single time, the words fall short. Because how do you describe the sun to someone who's been blind their whole life? How do you explain color to someone who's only ever seen gray? But I'll try. He was standing maybe 10 feet away from me. A man, dressed in white, not the stark, sterile white of hospital walls, but a white that seemed to glow from within. Like light given form. His robe moved in a breeze I couldn't feel, and I realized the light wasn't coming from the sky. It was coming from him. His face. God, his face. I can't tell you what he looked like. Not because I don't remember, but because my mind can't hold it. It's like trying to stare directly at the sun, your brain just refuses. But I remember his eyes. Dark. Deep. Ancient. Eyes that had seen everything, every sin, every shame, every secret I had ever buried. And when he looked at me, I felt naked. Exposed. Every wall I had ever built, every mask I had ever worn, every lie I had ever told, it all dissolved. He saw me. The real me. And I was terrified. I fell to my knees. Not because I decided to. Not because I was trying to be respectful. But because my legs just gave out. Like gravity had tripled. I'm sorry, I gasped. The words came out in Arabic, then English, then some mixture of both. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm not good enough to be here. I'm not clean. I'm not. Stand up. His voice. That voice. It wasn't harsh. It wasn't angry. But it had weight. Authority. The kind of authority that makes you obey without thinking. I stood. My legs were shaking so badly I thought I would collapse again. He took a step toward me. I flinched. He stopped. And then he smiled. Have you ever had someone smile at you and felt like they just reached into your chest and wrapped their hands around your heart? That's what it felt like. Warm. Safe. Like coming home after being lost in the cold for years. You called for me, he said. My breath caught. You heard me? I have always heard you. Always? What did that mean? I had just prayed to him for the first time tonight. I had just read his words for the first time today. How could he have always? Every prayer you whispered into the dark, he said, as if reading my thoughts. Every tear you cried alone. Every question you were afraid to ask. I heard them all. But I wasn't praying to you, I whispered. I was praying to. You were praying to the Father, he said gently. And I am the way to the Father. Every time you reached out for truth, you were reaching for me. You just didn't know my name yet. Tears poured down my face. I couldn't stop them. I don't understand, I sobbed. I'm nobody. I'm just a confused kid. I've done everything wrong. I've doubted. I've questioned. You sought truth, he interrupted. In a world that punished you for it, you kept seeking. Do you know how rare that is? How precious? He took another step toward me. Closer. Close enough that I could see the scars on his hands. Scars. Deep. Old. Like something had been driven through his wrists. I stared at them, my mind racing, and then I remembered. The stories I had read that afternoon in the Bible. The crucifixion. The nails. You're really him, I whispered. You're really Jesus. I am. Those two words hit me like a shockwave. Because I knew what they meant. In Islam, only Allah could say I am. It was the name of God Himself, the self-existent one, the eternal one, the one who needs nothing and no one. And Jesus just claimed it. He wasn't just a prophet. He wasn't just a good teacher. He was God. Why? I choked out. Why did you come to me? I'm nobody. I'm not special. I'm not. You were mine, he said simply. You have always been mine. Before your father named you. Before you were born. Before the foundation of the world, I knew you. I chose you. I love you. Love. That word. I had heard it before. My mother said it sometimes, in whispers, when my father wasn't around. But it was always conditional. Always fragile. Always one mistake away from being taken back. But the way Jesus said it, it was absolute. Unshakable. Final. I don't deserve it, I whispered. No one does, he said. That's why I died. He lifted his hands, showing me the scars again. And then he pulled back the robe slightly, revealing his side. Another scar. Deep. Jagged. Like a spear had been driven between his ribs. This is what love looks like, he said softly. Not words. Not rituals. Not rules. Blood. Sacrifice. I took the punishment you deserved. I paid the price you could never pay. And I did it willingly. Joyfully. Because you were worth it. I collapsed. Right there in that golden field, I collapsed into sobs so violent I couldn't breathe. Every wall I had ever built, every defense mechanism, every ounce of pride, it all shattered. And he knelt beside me. Jesus, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Creator of the universe, knelt in the dirt next to a broken Muslim boy and pulled me into his arms. Have you ever been hugged by God? I don't mean a feeling. I don't mean some vague sense of peace. I mean literally held. Wrapped in arms that feel more real than anything you've ever touched. That's what happened. He held me while I sobbed. He didn't tell me to stop crying. He didn't tell me to be strong. He just held me. And I felt things I had never felt before. Safe. Loved. Known. Accepted. Whole. I don't want to go back, I whispered into his chest. Please. Don't make me go back. They're going to break me. They're going to. I am with you, he said. His voice rumbled through his chest, through my entire body. Even in the darkest valley. Even in the furnace. Even when you feel abandoned. I am with you. But what do? I pulled back, looking up at his face. How do I survive this? How do I? Trust me, he said. I am about to do something in your life that will seem impossible. Something that will make no sense. But when it happens, you will know it was me. And you will never doubt again. What? What are you going to do? He smiled again. That devastating, beautiful smile. Watch. And then he touched my forehead. Just one finger. Light as a feather. But it felt like lightning shooting through my entire body. Every nerve. Every cell. I gasped, my back arching, and I saw. Flashes. Images. Too fast to understand but burning into my memory. A room. Fire. My father's face twisted in rage. A Bible in flames. And then light. blinding light. A figure in white standing between me and my father. The images vanished. What was that? I gasped. A promise, Jesus said. I will not leave you. I will not forsake you. And I will make a way where there seems to be no way. But how? Do you trust me? I hesitated. Because trust was the hardest thing I had ever been asked to give. Trust had been beaten out of me. Manipulated. Weaponized. But I looked into his eyes, those impossibly deep, impossibly kind eyes, and I knew. This was different. Yes, I whispered. I trust you. Then go back, he said. And remember, I am with you. Always. Wait. But the field was already fading. The light was dimming. His face was disappearing into brightness, and I was falling. I woke up in my bed, gasping, drenched in sweat, my heart pounding like I had just run a marathon. The room was dark. The house was silent. The clock on my wall read 3:17 a.m. It was a dream. Just a dream. But my face was wet with tears. And when I looked down at my hands, there, on my right palm, was a mark. Faint. Barely visible. Like someone had pressed their finger there and left the faintest impression of light. I touched it. It tingled. It was real. He was real. Jesus was real. And he had just promised me a miracle. I didn't sleep for the rest of that night. How could I? I sat on my bed, staring at my palm, touching the faint mark over and over again, half convinced I was losing my mind. Had that really happened? Had I really stood in that field? Had Jesus really held me? Or was I so desperate, so broken, that my brain had conjured up the exact thing I needed to survive? But the mark was there. Faint as a whisper, but there. And something inside me had changed. Some fundamental shift in my soul that I couldn't explain. The crushing weight that had been sitting on my chest for weeks, it was lighter. Not gone, but lighter. For the first time since my father found that video, I felt like I could breathe. The next 2 days passed in a blur of tension. My father barely spoke to me. He would unlock my door for prayers, stand over me while I performed them, then lock me back in. My mother wouldn't look at me. My sister had become a ghost. I could hear her crying in her room at night, but she never came to my door again. I was already dead to them. Already erased. They were just waiting for the plane to take away the evidence. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I should have been. I should have been terrified. But every time the fear started to creep back in, I would close my eyes and remember his face. His voice. His promise. I am about to do something in your life that will seem impossible. I didn't know what that meant. But I believed it. And that belief, that tiny seed of faith planted in my chest, was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. The night before my flight, my last night in that house, my last night as the person I used to be, my father called a family meeting. He unlocked my door at 8 p.m. Downstairs, he said. Now. I followed him down to the living room. My mother was there, sitting on the sofa, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes red and swollen. My sister sat beside her, staring at the floor. And standing by the fireplace, holding a briefcase, was Uncle Rashid, my father's older brother. A judge. A scholar. A man even my father respected. Sit, my father commanded. I sat in the chair across from them. 5 pairs of eyes staring at me like I was on trial. Uncle Rashid opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers, "Your father has asked me to come here tonight to witness your oath," he said. His voice was calm, authoritative, the voice of a man used to being obeyed. "Before you leave tomorrow, you will swear on the Quran that you renounce all interest in Christianity, that you affirm your faith in Islam, that you will submit to the teachings of the madrasa, and that you will return in 2 years as a faithful Muslim." He placed the papers on the coffee table in front of me. Then he pulled out a Quran, a beautiful, leather-bound copy with gold-embossed calligraphy, and set it beside the papers. "Place your hand on the Quran," Uncle Rashid said, "and repeat after me." I stared at the Quran, the book I had memorized passages from, the book I had kissed and touched to my forehead in reverence, the book that had been the center of my entire life. And I felt nothing. No reverence. No fear. No connection. It was just a book. "Place your hand on the Quran," Uncle Rashid repeated, his tone harder now. I looked up at my father. His jaw was clenched. His eyes were burning with that cold, black fire I had seen so many times before. "Do it," he said quietly, "or I will put you on that plane in chains." My mother whimpered. My sister squeezed her eyes shut. And I heard it. That voice. The same voice from the field. Quiet. Gentle. But unmistakable. "Do not be afraid. I am with you." I took a deep breath. "No," I said. The room went silent. Uncle Rashid blinked. "What did you say?" I said no. My voice was shaking, but I forced the words out. "I won't swear on the Quran. I won't lie. I won't pretend anymore." My father stood up. Slowly. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. "What are you saying?" His voice was low. Dangerous. "I'm saying," I looked him in the eye, "I'm saying I don't believe anymore. I don't believe Allah is God. I don't believe Muhammad was a prophet. I don't believe Islam is the truth." My mother gasped. My sister started crying. Uncle Rashid's face turned red. "You don't know what you're saying, boy. You're confused." "I'm not confused," I interrupted. I stood up, my legs trembling but holding. "For the first time in my life, I'm not confused. I know exactly what I'm saying." "Then say it," my father hissed. "Say what you really believe. Say the words so everyone in this room can hear what you've become." I felt something rise in my chest. Not fear. Not anger. But courage. A courage that didn't come from me. That couldn't have come from me. "I believe in Jesus Christ," I said. My voice was steady now. Clear. "I believe he is the Son of God. I believe he died for my sins. And I believe he rose from the dead. He's the truth. He's the way. He's the life. And I'm not going to deny him." My father moved so fast I didn't have time to react. He grabbed me by the throat and slammed me against the wall. My head cracked against the plaster. Stars exploded in my vision. "You dare," he roared, his face inches from mine, spit flying from his mouth. "You dare bring that filth into my house? You dare blaspheme in front of your family?" I couldn't breathe. His hand was crushing my windpipe. I clawed at his fingers, gasping, choking. "Ahmad, stop. You're killing him," my mother screamed. "Good," my father shouted. "Better he dies than lives as a kafir. Better I kill him now than let him bring shame on this family." My vision was going dark. Black spots dancing at the edges. I could hear my sister sobbing. my uncle shouting, my mother pulling at my father's arm. And I prayed, not out loud, but in my mind, desperate, final. Jesus, help me, please. And that's when it happened. The miracle. The impossible thing he had promised. The lights went out. All of them. The lamps. The chandelier. Everything. The room plunged into darkness. My father loosened his grip, startled. I fell to the floor, gasping, coughing, gulping air. What Uncle Rashid started. And then the room filled with light. But not electric light. Not lamplight. This was different. White. Pure. Blinding. Coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. My mother screamed. My sister covered her eyes. My uncle stumbled backward. And my father, who feared nothing, who bowed to no one, fell to his knees. Because standing in the center of the room, between me and my father, was a figure. A man. Dressed in white. The same man from my dream. Jesus. I need you to understand something. This wasn't a vision. This wasn't in my head. Everyone in that room saw him. Everyone. My mother saw him. She was screaming, praying in Arabic, covering her face. My sister saw him. She had gone completely still, her mouth open, her eyes wide. My uncle saw him. He had collapsed into a chair, his hand over his heart, his face pale as death. And my father saw him. My father, who had beaten me, who had locked me away, who had just tried to strangle me, was on his knees, staring up at this figure with an expression I had never seen on his face before. Terror. The figure didn't speak. Not with words. But when he turned his head to look at me, I felt it. Stand up. I stood. My legs were shaking. My throat was on fire. But I stood. The figure reached out, not to me, but toward the coffee table where the Quran lay. And the Quran lifted. It rose into the air. Slowly. Impossibly. No strings. No tricks. Just lifted. Hovering 3 feet above the table. My uncle made a choking sound. The figure turned his gaze to my father. And though he didn't speak out loud, I heard the words in my mind, and I think everyone else heard them too. This is my beloved son. Touch him, and you touch me. And then the Quran, the holy book, the untouchable, perfect word of Allah, burst into flames. My mother fainted. My sister screamed. My uncle scrambled backward, tripping over his own feet. And my father, my strong, proud, unmovable father, started to weep. Not angry tears. Not frustrated tears. Broken tears. The Quran burned in midair, bright, hot flames that somehow didn't spread, didn't smoke, didn't char anything else in the room. Just consumed the book in seconds, until there was nothing left but ash. The ash floated to the ground. Gentle. Like snow. And the figure turned back to me one last time. He didn't smile. He didn't nod. But his eyes, those deep, infinite eyes, held mine for one heartbeat. 2. And I knew what he was saying. I told you. I promised you. I am with you. Always. Then the light faded. The figure disappeared. The electricity flickered back on. And we were left standing in a room that smelled like smoke and felt like the aftermath of an earthquake. No one spoke. No one moved. My father was still on his knees, staring at the pile of ash on the floor. Tears streaming down his face. his lips moving silently, but no sound coming out. My uncle had pressed himself into the corner of the room, his eyes wide, his hands shaking. My mother was unconscious on the sofa. And my sister was staring at me. Not with fear. Not with hatred. With wonder. I don't know how long we stayed like that. Frozen. Suspended in the moment after the impossible had just happened. Finally, my father spoke. His voice was broken. Hollow. What was that? I swallowed. My throat was raw. But I spoke. That was Jesus, I said quietly. The one I told you about. The one you said was a dead man on a cross. He's alive. And he just saved my life. My father looked up at me. And for the first time in 17 years, I didn't see anger in his eyes. I saw fear. And something else. Doubt. His hands were still shaking as he stood up. He looked at the pile of ash on the floor. Then at me. Then at the ash again. You will leave tomorrow, he said finally. But his voice had no strength. No authority. You will go. But not to Pakistan. What? I whispered. You will leave this house, he said. Tonight. Now. Take what you need. And go. Because if you stay, his voice cracked. If you stay, I don't know what will happen. What else will happen? Just go. He turned and walked out of the room. Like a man in a trance. My uncle followed him. Silent. Shaken. And I stood there, in the center of that room, surrounded by the ash of a burned Quran, and I realized I was free. Jesus had kept his promise. He had made a way where there was no way. And now I had to walk through it. I had 30 minutes. That's what my father said when he came back into the room, his face ashen, his voice mechanical. 30 minutes. Take your clothes. Take nothing else. And leave. He wouldn't look at me. Couldn't look at me. Because every time his eyes drifted toward the pile of ash on the floor, the remains of the Quran that had burned in midair, his hands started shaking again. My mother had regained consciousness, but she was in shock. She sat on the sofa, rocking back and forth, mumbling prayers under her breath. Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah, seeking forgiveness from a God who had just watched his holy book turn to ash while the man in white stood guard over me. My sister hadn't moved. She was still staring at me with those wide eyes. Not hatred. Not anger. Just confusion. And maybe, just maybe, a tiny spark of curiosity. Aisha, I whispered, kneeling in front of her. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to see all of this. I'm sorry Was that really him? She interrupted. Her voice was so small. So fragile. Was that really Jesus? I nodded. Tears burned my eyes. Yes. Is he going to hurt us? No, I said firmly. No, Habibti. He doesn't hurt people. He saves them. Get away from her, my father barked from the doorway. Get your things. Now. I stood. Looked at my sister one more time. She was crying now, silent tears streaming down her cheeks. And then I ran upstairs to pack my life into a backpack. What do you take when you have 30 minutes to leave everything you've ever known? I stood in my room, my hands shaking, my mind blank. Clothes. I needed clothes. I grabbed jeans, shirts, underwear, socks, stuffing them into my school backpack without folding them. My phone. No, wait. My father had taken my phone. My laptop was destroyed. I had nothing. No documents. No ID. My father kept my passport locked in his safe. I was leaving with nothing. No. Not nothing. I dropped to my knees and reached under my bed, pulling out the small Quran my grandmother had given me when I was 6. It was tiny, leather-bound, with my name embossed in gold on the cover. I opened it. And tucked inside, where I had hidden it 2 days ago, was the page I had torn from my father's Bible. John 3 verse 16. I had ripped it out in a moment of desperation, folded it small, and hidden it in the one place no one would ever look. I pulled it out now. Unfolded it. Read the words again. For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. I folded it carefully and tucked it into my pocket. Then I threw the Quran back under the bed. I didn't need it anymore. When I came downstairs, Uncle Rashid was standing by the front door, his briefcase clutched to his chest like a shield. He looked at me the way you'd look at a snake. Dangerous. Unpredictable. "Where will you go?" he asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "You have no money. No documents. No friends who will risk associating with an apostate." He said the word like a curse. "You'll be dead within a week." "Then I'll be dead," I said. "But I won't be a liar." He flinched. And I saw it in his eyes. He had seen the same thing everyone else had seen. The man in white. The burning Quran. The impossible made real. And it had shaken him. "If you ever come back," he said quietly, "they will kill you. The community. The imam. The men at the mosque. They will call it honor killing, and no one will stop them. Do you understand?" "I understand." "Then you are a fool." He turned to my father. "Ahmad, I want no part of this. What happened here tonight? I will never speak of it. And neither will you, if you're wise." He left. And then it was just me, my father, my mother, and my sister. My father walked to the front door and opened it. Cold night air rushed in. The street outside was dark, empty, silent. "Go," he said. I looked at my mother. She was still rocking, still praying, her eyes distant and glassy. "Ummi," I whispered. "I love you." She didn't respond. Didn't even look at me. I turned to my sister. "Aisha, Don't," my father snapped. "Don't speak to her. You've done enough damage. Now go." I picked up my backpack, slung it over my shoulder, and I walked toward the door. But as I passed my father, I stopped. Looked at him. Really looked at him. He was crying. Silently. Tears streaming down his face, his jaw clenched so tightly I could see the muscles twitching. "Baba," I whispered. "He's real. Jesus is real. And he loves you. Even after everything you've done. He loves you. And if you ask him." The slap came hard and fast. My head snapped to the side. Blood filled my mouth. "Get out of my house," my father said, his voice shaking. "You are no longer my son. You are dead to me. Dead to this family. If I ever see you again, I will kill you myself. Do you understand?" I nodded. Blood dripped from my split lip onto the marble floor, the cold, expensive marble floor that had always been colder than his heart. "I forgive you," I whispered. And I walked out into the night. The door slammed behind me. I stood on the front steps of the house I had grown up in, a house that had been my prison, and I heard the lock click. Then I heard something else. Sobbing. From inside. My mother. My sister. Loud, wrenching sobs that echoed through the walls. And my father's voice, roaring, "Stop. Stop crying." He made his choice. He is gone. I forced myself to walk. One step. Then another. Down the driveway. Through the front gate. Onto the empty street. I didn't look back. If I looked back, I would have run back to that door and begged them to let me in. Begged them to love me. Begged them to choose me. But I couldn't. Because I had chosen Jesus. And he had chosen me first. I walked for 3 hours that night. I had no plan. No destination. No money. I just walked through the sleeping city, my backpack heavy on my shoulders, my split lip throbbing, my mind numb. Where was I supposed to go? I couldn't go to friends, their parents would call my father immediately. I couldn't go to the mosque, they'd stone me on the spot if they knew what I'd done. I couldn't go to the police, apostasy wasn't technically illegal, but in a city where the imam held more power than the law, it might as well be. I was alone. Completely, utterly alone. And that's when the fear hit me. Not the slow, creeping fear I had lived with for weeks. But sudden, crushing, paralyzing fear. What have I done? I just destroyed my entire life. I have nothing. Nothing. I'm going to die out here. I'm going to starve or freeze or get killed, and no one will even know. No one will care. I stopped in the middle of an empty street, my chest heaving, panic clawing at my throat. Jesus, I gasped. Jesus, I did what you said. I trusted you. I stood up for you. And now I am with you. The voice. Not audible, but clear as day in my mind. I am with you. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. I closed my eyes. Took a shaky breath. Okay, I whispered. Okay. I trust you. I don't know how this is going to work, but I trust you. And I started walking again. I ended up at a 24-hour bus station on the edge of the city. It was dirty, crowded with homeless people and late-night travelers, and it smelled like diesel fuel and stale sweat. But it was warm. And it had benches. I found an empty corner, sat down, and pulled my backpack onto my lap. I had no money for a bus ticket. No ID to even buy one if I did. I was stuck. I sat there for maybe 20 minutes, staring at the floor, trying to figure out my next move. And then someone sat down next to me. I looked up. It was an old man. Maybe 70. White beard. Kind eyes. He was wearing simple clothes, a worn jacket, faded jeans, and he was holding 2 cups of chai. "You look like you could use this," he said, offering me one of the cups. I stared at it. At him. I don't have money to pay you back. He smiled. I didn't ask for money. I took the cup. The warmth seeped into my cold hands. I brought it to my lips and drank. It was sweet. Perfect. Exactly what I needed. "Thank you," I whispered. "What's your name, son?" the old man asked. I hesitated. Giving my name felt dangerous. But something about this man, his gentle eyes, his calm presence, made me feel safe. "My name means servant of the merciful," I said carefully. "But I don't think I want to be called that anymore." The old man nodded slowly. Like he understood. Then what do you want to be called? I thought about it. And then I remembered something I had read in the Bible. A story about a man whose name was changed when he met God. Jacob became Israel. Saul became Paul. I want a new name, I said. A name that means something true. How about Emmanuel? The old man said softly. I looked at him sharply. What did you say? Emmanuel. It means God with us. He smiled. Seems fitting, don't you think? My blood went cold. Not with fear. With awe. Because I had never told this man anything about what had happened. About Jesus. About the miracle. About any of it. Who are you? I whispered. The old man didn't answer directly. He just reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. He placed it in my hands. There's a church on the north side of the city, he said. Pastor Samuel. Give him this letter. He'll help you. But how did you? Emmanuel, the old man said, looking directly into my eyes. You are not alone. You were never alone. And you will never be alone. He is with you. Always. And then he stood up and walked away. I jumped to my feet. Wait. Who are you? How did you know? But he was gone. Vanished into the crowd of the bus station like he had never been there at all. I stood there, trembling, staring at the envelope in my hands. And I knew. That wasn't just an old man. That was another miracle. Inside the envelope was a handwritten note. Pastor Samuel, this young man has encountered the living God. He has lost everything for the sake of Christ. Please help him. A friend. And underneath the note, folded neatly, were 500 rupees. Enough for a bus ticket. Enough for food. Enough to survive. Enough to keep going. I took the bus to the north side of the city that same night. The church was small. Tiny, really. Tucked between a mechanic shop and a fabric store, with a crooked wooden cross above the door. I stood outside for 10 minutes, my heart pounding, terrified that someone would see me. That someone would recognize me. That my father's friends would drive by and drag me back. But I thought about Jesus standing in my living room. I thought about the Quran burning. I thought about the promise. I am with you. And I knocked on the door. A man answered. Middle-aged. Short. Round glasses. Kind face. Can I help you? He asked. I held up the envelope with shaking hands. Are you Pastor Samuel? He took the envelope. Opened it. Read the note. And then he looked at me with tears in his eyes. Come in, son, he said, stepping aside. You're safe now. You're home. That night, my first night in Pastor Samuel's church, I slept on a thin mattress in a storage room that smelled like olden books and candle wax. And I slept better than I had in years. Not because the mattress was comfortable. Not because I felt safe, not completely, anyway. The fear was still there, lurking at the edges of my mind, whispering that my father would find me, that the community would hunt me down, that I had made the biggest mistake of my life. But underneath that fear was something stronger. Peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't make sense. The kind that exists even in the middle of chaos. The kind that Jesus promised when he said, My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. Because the world's peace depends on circumstances. On safety. On comfort. On everything going right. But Jesus' peace? It exists in spite of circumstances. It lives in the storm. It breathes in the fire. And that night, sleeping on a mattress in a storage room with nothing to my name but a backpack and a torn Bible page in my pocket, I felt it. I felt him. And I knew I was going to be okay. Pastor Samuel didn't ask me many questions that first week. He fed me rice and lentils and chapati. Simple food, but it tasted like a feast. He gave me clean clothes, donated items from the congregation, a little too big but warm and soft. He let me sleep. Let me cry. Let me sit in silence in the back of the empty church, staring at the wooden cross on the wall, trying to process everything that had happened. And he prayed with me. Every morning. Not long, elaborate prayers. Not performances. Just honest, simple conversations with God. Father, thank you for bringing this young man to us. Protect him. Heal him. Show him your love in ways he's never experienced before. In Jesus' name, amen. That was it. 10 seconds. But those 10 seconds felt more real than 17 years of Islamic prayer. On the 8th day, Pastor Samuel sat down across from me at the small table in the church kitchen. Tell me your story, he said gently. When you're ready. And I told him everything. The video. The confrontation. The locked room. The despair. The Bible I found in my father's study. The dream, no, not a dream, the encounter with Jesus in the golden field. The family meeting. The miracle. The burning Quran. The man in white standing in my living room while my father wept on his knees. And the old man at the bus station who gave me the letter. Pastor Samuel listened without interrupting. And when I finished, there were tears streaming down his face. Do you know what you are? He said, his voice thick with emotion. I shook my head. You are a testimony, he said. A living, breathing testimony of the power of Jesus Christ. You are proof that he is still in the business of miracles. That he still appears to people. That he still rescues the lost and the broken and the desperate. You are walking evidence that he is alive. He reached across the table and took my hands. And I believe God brought you here for a reason, he said. Not just to save you, but to use you. To let your story set others free. How? I whispered. I'm nobody. I have nothing. I can't even go outside without looking over my shoulder. That's exactly what makes you powerful, Pastor Samuel said. Because when God uses someone who has nothing, everyone knows it's him doing the work. Not you. Him. I lived at the church for 3 months. Pastor Samuel helped me get new identity documents, not easy, but he had connections with a lawyer in the congregation who understood the danger I was in. He enrolled me in a small Christian school where I could finish my education without being recognized. And he introduced me to the congregation, a small group of maybe 40 people, most of them former Muslims like me, most of them carrying their own scars, their own stories of loss and persecution and miraculous rescue. I wasn't alone. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who understood. Who didn't judge. Who didn't demand perfection. Who just loved. One woman, Sister Miriam, a grandmother in her 60s, had been disowned by her family 30 years ago when she converted. She hugged me the first time we met and whispered, "Welcome home, Beta. You are our family now." And she meant it. They all did. But the persecution didn't stop. 2 months after I arrived at the church, someone set fire to the building. We were all inside Sunday evening service when we smelled the smoke. Pastor Samuel rushed to the door and found the entrance blocked, flames licking up the wooden frame. "Back door! Everyone to the back door!" he shouted. We ran. 40 people crammed through the narrow back exit, coughing, choking on smoke, stumbling into the alley behind the church. We stood there in the cold night air, watching the front of the building burn, listening to the distant wail of sirens. I knew it was because of me. I'm sorry, I sobbed, turning to Pastor Samuel. This is my fault. They found me. They're trying to kill me and they almost killed all of you. Stop, Pastor Samuel said firmly. He grabbed my shoulders. This is not your fault. This is persecution. This is what Jesus warned us about. In the world ye shall have tribulation. But what else did he say? I wiped my eyes. But be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. Exactly. Pastor Samuel pointed at the burning building. They can burn our church. They can threaten us. They can try to scare us. But they cannot touch him. They cannot stop the gospel. They cannot steal our faith. And then he did something I'll never forget. He turned to face the burning building, raised his hands, and started singing. Blessed be the name of the Lord. One by one, the others joined in. 40 voices, singing worship in an alley while their church burned. And I realized, this was what it meant to follow Jesus. Not comfort. Not safety. Not an easy life. But joy in the midst of suffering. Hope in the midst of loss. Victory in the midst of persecution. Because we hadn't lost. We had won. Because we still had him. 3 months after the fire, Pastor Samuel called me into his temporary office, a corner of the rented warehouse where we were holding services now. Sit down, Emmanuel, he said. That was my name now. Emmanuel. God with us. The name the old man had given me at the bus station. The name that reminded me every day that I was never alone. I've been praying, Pastor Samuel said. And I believe God is telling me it's time for you to share your story. Publicly. My stomach dropped. What? No. I can't. If people know who I am, where I am. I know the risk, Pastor Samuel said gently. But I also know that there are thousands of people in this city, Muslims, Hindus, atheists, people who feel trapped just like you did, who need to hear that Jesus is real. That he still performs miracles. That he still rescues people. But I'm not a preacher. I don't know how to. You don't need to preach, Pastor Samuel said. You just need to tell the truth. Tell them what happened. Tell them what he did for you. That's all. I sat in silence, my mind racing, my heart pounding. And then I heard it again. That voice. Quiet. Sure. Do not be afraid. I am with you. I took a deep breath. Okay, I said. I'll do it. We recorded my testimony on a cheap camera in the warehouse. Just me. Sitting on a stool. Looking directly into the lens. Telling my story. The hatred I was raised with. The suffocating religion. The desperation. The Bible I found. The prayer I whispered in my locked room. The encounter with Jesus in the field. The miracle in my living room, the man in white, the burning Quran, my father on his knees. And the peace I found in the rubble of my old life. Pastor Samuel uploaded the video to YouTube with a simple title. Muslim boy raised to hate Christians, then a man in white visited his room. If one person finds Jesus through this, he said, it will be worth it. The video got 50 views in the first week. Then 500. Then 5,000. Then 50,000. Within 2 months, it had been viewed over 2 million times. and the messages started pouring in. I'm a Muslim girl in Saudi Arabia. I watched your video in secret. I've been praying to Jesus for the first time. Thank you for giving me hope. I'm an atheist. I thought Christians were delusional. But after watching your story, I can't deny it anymore. Something happened to you. Someone real intervened. I want to know this Jesus. I've been a Christian for 20 years, but I was losing my faith. Your testimony reminded me that He is alive. Thank you. Hundreds of messages. Then thousands. People from Pakistan, Iran, Indonesia, Egypt, Jordan. Secret believers. Seekers. Skeptics who couldn't explain away what had happened to me. And many of them prayed to receive Jesus after watching. Pastor Samuel was right. God hadn't just rescued me for my sake. He had rescued me so I could help rescue others. But listen to me carefully, because this is the most important part. I'm not special. I'm not some spiritual superhero. I'm not more righteous, more worthy, more deserving than anyone else. I was just a desperate kid who cried out to a God he barely knew, and that God answered. And He will answer you too. Maybe you're watching this right now and you're a Muslim. Maybe you've been taught your whole life that Jesus was just a prophet. That Christians are misguided. That the Bible has been corrupted. But deep down in that quiet place you don't let anyone see, you've been wondering, questioning, doubting whether Islam is really the truth. Listen to me, those doubts are not coming from Shaitan. They're coming from the Holy Spirit. God is calling you, drawing you, inviting you to know Him not as a distant judge, but as a loving Father. Jesus said, I am the door, by me if any man enter in, he shall be saved. Not Muhammad. Not good works. Not 5 prayers a day. Jesus. Only Jesus. And if you ask Him, if you truly, genuinely call out to Him, He will answer you. He might not appear in your room the way He appeared in mine, but He will make Himself real to you. I promise. Maybe you're not a Muslim. Maybe you're an atheist. Or a Buddhist. Or a Hindu. Or just someone who's been hurt by religion and wants nothing to do with God. I get it. I understand. I was hurt too. I was crushed by a religion that promised peace but delivered only fear. But Jesus is different. He's not asking you to perform. He's not demanding you be perfect. He's not waiting for you to clean yourself up before you come to Him. He's saying, come as you are. Broken. Messy. Doubting. Angry. I don't care. Just come. And I will give you rest. That's not religion. That's relationship. That's love. Maybe you're already a Christian, but you're struggling. You're tired. You're questioning whether God is really there, whether He really cares, whether any of this is real. I want you to know, He is there. He does care. And it is real. I have stood face to face with Jesus Christ. I have felt His arms around me. I have watched Him perform the impossible in my life, not because I deserved it, but because He is faithful. And if He did it for me, a Muslim kid who had every reason to reject Him, He will do it for you. Don't give up. Don't walk away. Don't let the enemy convince you that you're too far gone, too broken, too sinful. You're not. Jesus specializes in lost causes, in broken people, in impossible situations. That's His specialty. So here's what I want you to do right now. I want you to pray with me. Out loud if you can. In your heart if you can't. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be perfect. just honest. Repeat after me. Jesus, I don't know if you're real, but I want to know. I'm tired of being empty. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of trying to save myself. If you're really who you say you are, if you really died for me, if you really rose from the dead, if you really love me, then I need you to show me. I'm done pretending. I'm done performing. I'm done trying to be good enough. I'm just broken. And I need you. Forgive me for my sins. All of them. Every lie, every betrayal, every failure. I can't carry them anymore. Come into my life. Make me new. Give me the peace and the hope and the love I've been searching for my whole life. I don't understand how this works, but I'm choosing to trust you. Right now. Today. In your name, Jesus. Amen. If you just prayed that prayer and you meant it, then something just happened. You just became a child of God. The Bible says in 2 Corinthians 5 verse 17, "Therefore if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature, old things are passed away, behold, all things are become new." You are new. The old you, the broken, guilty, ashamed version is gone, buried with Jesus. And the new you, forgiven, loved, adopted, is alive. Welcome to the family. Now listen carefully, because this is where it gets real. Following Jesus is not easy. It will cost you. It might cost you your family, like it cost me. It might cost you your reputation, your job, your safety, your comfort. Jesus never promised it would be easy. He promised it would be worth it. And I'm here to tell you, 3 years later, after losing everything, it was worth it. Because I have something now that I never had before. I have peace. I have purpose. I have love that doesn't depend on my performance. I have hope that doesn't die when circumstances get hard. I have Jesus. And He is enough. So don't wait. Don't put this off. Don't tell yourself you'll think about it later, you'll pray about it tomorrow, you'll get your life together first. Tomorrow is not promised. And you don't need to get your life together. That's His job. Your job is just to say yes. Say yes to the one who has been calling you your whole life. The one who knows every secret you've ever kept, every sin you've ever committed, every tear you've ever cried, and loves you anyway. Say yes to Jesus. Right now. Today. Because He is standing at the door of your heart, knocking. And all you have to do is open it. My name is Emmanuel. It means God with us. And I'm living proof that He is. He was with me in the locked room. He was with me in the darkest moment of my life. He was with me when my father's hands were around my throat. He is with me now. And if you call on Him, He will be with you too. Always. Forever. No matter what. In Jesus' name. Amen.